I told you that gambling was the most popular form of entertainment in the United States. According to the History of Gambling by Heather Basic, in 2006, the total amount of money spent on gambling in the United States was $57 billion. The nearest in comparison was movies and music combined at $20 billion. Now, when testing Lady Luck, I prefer to play the game of blackjack. And while sitting at the table, and oftentimes I see people come up without any strategy, not knowing how to play, not understanding the lingo in the game, and just giving their money to the casino. Some research was done by Dr. Hannum in casino mathematics, and it explained that with the use of a basic strategy, you can lower the house edge from 2% to 0.5%, which is huge in the gambling world. Now, to understand how to better your odds with blackjack, you must understand the common terminology, when to hit or stay, and when to double down or split. The game of blackjack has its own terminology that you must know before playing. Hitting is when you ask the dealer for one more card. Staying is when you're happy with your hand and you don't want another card. Splitting is when you have a pair and you put another bet out and it splits your hand into two separate ones. Doubling down is when you double your bet on the chances that the next card the dealer gives you is going to beat their hand. Now we know the terminology, let's put it to use. In order to play the game of blackjack, you must understand how to play. The object of the game is to beat the dealer, not to get as close to 21 as most people think. Well, the best way to do this is by knowing when to hit. When two cards total anything under 11, you always hit. Now when your two cards equal 17 and above, you always stay in order to not go over 21 and bust. If the card total for your hand is between 12 and 16, you hit depending on what the dealer is showing. Well, hitting is essential to the game, but knowing when to hit to stay and play the game you have or play the hand you have is equally as important. If the dealer is showing a 6 and under, also known as bust cards, then you stay on these hands and let them beat themselves. Now if the dealer's face card is a 7 and above, you want to try to get as close to 17 or above as possible and beat them. So hitting and staying is not only the only thing that makes you money, but any gambler knows that doubling down or splitting your cards is a chance to make some big money. Splitting a hand is when you are dealt a pair and take the option of doubling your bet in order to split the cards into two hands. From there, the dealer will give you more cards, and then you refer back to when to hit or stay in these hands. Another option to make more money is doubling down. How this works, like I mentioned earlier, is you double the amount of your bet that you're going to beat their hand. It's a risk that should only be taken when the dealer has bust cards and you have a 10 or 11. So now that we understand the basic rules of how to bet your odds at blackjack, let's review how. So to understand how to bet your odds with blackjack, you first must understand the basic terminology. After understanding the terminology, you should learn when to hit and stay for a foundation, and after you have this solid foundation, you can move on to splitting, doubling, and making some money. Now if you do the things I mentioned, you can be well on your way to beating the casino and winning enough to go on the vacation you've always dreamt of.